Hello and welcome. You ever have one of those moments where a tiny little worry just completely snowballs? One small concern that your mind just grabs onto and turns into an absolute disaster movie? Well, that's exactly what we're diving into today. We are going to break down why our brains do this and, way more importantly, what we can actually do about it. So let's get right into it. So, does this little chain of events look kind of familiar? You make one small mistake at work and bam, suddenly your brain is on this high-speed train, making stops at I'm totally incompetent, then I'm definitely getting fired, all the way to the final destination, I'm going to be homeless. It's a thought pattern that takes a tiny molehill and with just breathtaking speed turns it into a volcanic mountain. This right here is the worry spiral in action. Okay, so let's put a real name to this experience. First up, we're going to explore what psychologists call the worry spiral and really get into the mechanics of what makes it tick. The official term for this is catastrophic thinking, and notice that it's called a cognitive distortion. That phrase is so key. It means this is a habit of thought, a glitch in our thinking, not objective reality. It's basically our brain's ancient protective instinct just going into complete overdrive, making us overestimate how bad something's going to be while totally underestimating our own ability to actually handle it. Now, this gets to the absolute heart of the problem. This is the central error in catastrophic thinking. We get possibility completely mixed up with probability. I mean, sure, it's possible your boss is upset about that typo, but what's the actual probability that one tiny error will lead to you getting fired? Catastrophic thinking just throws probability out the window and clings to the worst-case what if, treating a 1 in a million shot like it's a sure thing. So what fuels this whole thing? Well, you can see the cycle right here. It all kicks off by magnifying a negative outcome. That then triggers rumination, that endless looping soundtrack of what-if questions. This, of course, leads to feeling totally helpless and overwhelmed because we start to believe our anxious thoughts aren't just thoughts, they're predictions of the future. The whole thing is just a perfect storm for anxiety, and it's usually kicked off by a little bit of uncertainty or stress. But here's the thing about catastrophic thinking. It rarely travels alone. Oh no. It often has a partner in crime. A feeling that a lot of high achievers know all too well. So for this next part, let's talk about this fear of being a fake. And here it is, the imposter phenomenon. You've probably heard it called imposter syndrome. It's that nagging, deep-down feeling that you're a fraud, that you haven't really earned your accomplishments. It's this bizarre inability to actually absorb your own success, even when there is objective, hard evidence, like degrees, awards, promotions, staring you right in the face. So what does this actually look like day to day? Well, it often looks like this. Any success you have isn't because you're skilled. No, it's because you got lucky. Or maybe the standards were lower this time. This creates this constant low-grade fear of being exposed. And to stop that from happening, people do things like become perfectionists or over-prepare to an extreme degree. They're not just trying to do a good job, they're trying to build a fortress to prevent the moment everyone finds them out. And this brings us right to the core insight of this whole explainer. Okay, we've met our two main characters, the worry spiral and the feeling of being a fake. Now, let's see how they dance together in what we'll call the doubt-dread loop. Right? I mean, how do these two incredibly powerful psychological forces get so tangled up with each other? Let's break it down. This chart just lays it all out so perfectly. See, clinical models break catastrophizing into 3 parts: magnification, rumination, and helplessness. And just look at how they pour gasoline directly on the imposter phenomenon fire. You make one tiny mistake, that's the spark. Magnification blows it up into proof that you're a fraud. Rumination locks your brain onto it, replaying it over and over, confirming how inadequate you are. And finally, helplessness steps in and convinces you that your past success was just a fluke, a total accident, and there's no way you can keep up the act. It's a vicious cycle. Catastrophic thinking provides the fuel, and the imposter feeling is the fire. Okay, now that might sound super bleak, but this is where the whole story turns. The brilliant psychologist Albert Ellis famously said this: "What is constructed can be deconstructed." And that is so incredibly empowering. It means that these thought patterns, as real and as powerful as they feel, they aren't permanent fixtures. We can actually learn to take them apart, piece by piece. So, how do we start deconstructing this thing? Well, the first set of tools are all cognitive. They're about learning how to rewire that inner monologue.
The process is called cognitive restructuring, and honestly, it's a pretty straightforward three-step method. First, you just have to identify the thought, you gotta catch it in the act. Second, you challenge it, become a detective for your own mind. What are the actual cold, hard facts? What's the real evidence for this fear? And third, you reframe it. You replace that distorted funhouse mirror thought with one that is way more balanced and realistic.
And here's a perfect example of what that reframing actually looks like. The catastrophic thought is, if I make one mistake in this presentation, they'll know I'm incompetent. But a reframed thought, a more truthful thought, sounds like this. You know what? I've made small mistakes before and I still do my job really well. It might feel uncomfortable for a minute, but it's not a catastrophe. See the difference? It's not about pretending everything is perfect. It's about seeing the situation for what it actually is. Uncomfortable, maybe, but totally survivable. Thinking differently is absolutely crucial, but pairing it with action, that's what really breaks the cycle for good. So our final section is all about using your behavior to gather real-world proof that your fears are liars. So here it is, your action toolkit. You could run a little behavioral experiment. Afraid of looking stupid? Intentionally ask a so-called dumb question in a low-stakes meeting. You'll prove to yourself that nothing terrible happens. To fight that fraud feeling, keep a win journal. This isn't about ego, it's about creating an objective, undeniable record of your competence. When the spiral hits, use grounding techniques to pull your brain out of some imaginary future catastrophe and back into the present moment. Oh, and try this one, cognitive diffusion. Just say, I'm having the thought that, right before your worry. That tiny bit of phrasing creates just enough space to see it's just a thought, not a fact. So what is the ultimate goal of all this work? It's a huge shift in how you experience success. It's all about moving from a feeling of relief to a feeling of genuine pride. See, relief is that feeling of, whew, I dodged a bullet. I wasn't exposed as a fraud this time. That keeps you stuck in the cycle. Pride, on the other hand, is the feeling of truly internalizing your success, knowing you earned it. That is the feeling that breaks the cycle for good. So in the end, it really comes down to this choice. Those catastrophic thoughts, they're probably still going to show up. They're a deeply wired habit for a lot of us. But now you have the tools to pause, to question, and to choose. Are you going to react to the scary story your anxiety is telling you? Or are you going to ground yourself in the truth of your own competence and your own strength? Thanks for watching.